going to talk about just one verse in this Diamond Sutra. The Diamond Sutra itself has so many verses to it, and this is one of the popular sutra both in the Theravada tradition, also in Mahayana. So let's talk about just one or two verses as the time permits. The first verse says, it's not the first verse, one of the verses says, Subhuti asks, so what are the signs of a Buddha? We all hear about this word Buddha all the time, right? A Buddha is a person who has attained nirvana, a complete enlightenment. And what are the signs of the Buddha? There are 32 signs which says that this is a person whom we call as Buddha. Buddha is again a title. It's not the name of a person. It is just a title. This title simply means someone who has awakened from this truth of reality. He is just awakened. We think the reality is in one particular way, but it is not. So when you awaken to the truth of this reality, that's when you become a Buddha. So what are the signs of the Buddha? There are 32 marks in the body of a Buddha. These are all physical symbols that will show to someone that, hey, this is a Buddha. A few of the things which I could think of, I wish I could remember. For example, the Buddha will have a large forehead, and he will have a bump on his head. And most of the times we see this image as a hair tied upon on his head. It's not that, it's a bump on the head. It symbolizes Buddha. And then you may have a long ears. That's again a mark of a Buddha. And then he may have long arms. The arms may extend beyond his knee. So that's another mark. So Subhuti asks, if these marks are there, so then I know that this is a Buddha. Is it the right way of understanding? So the question here is, Buddha asks, Subhuti, if a Buddha has all these marks, you say that this is a Buddha. Do you think that is the right way of understanding? Do you think a Buddha has to have these marks? Subhuti, as an enlightened disciple or a student, he says, no, Buddha, this is not a mark of a Buddha. As soon as you say these marks, these symbols shows this person as a Buddha, that means you are trying to put that image into a permanent structure. In other words, you are creating a self. You are creating a self for Buddha. When that happens, the self, we want that self to be permanent. All of us want to have our own self. All of us have an identity, right? We have an identity. I have this body. I have this young body. I don't want this body to become old. I have a specific way of dressing up myself. Things like those. This identity. This is the way I act. This is the way I interact with my family. This is the identity I have. When you give the same identity to the Buddha, Buddha says it's no more a Buddha. In other words, the self, the identity we all have has to be written upon. You should not get stuck with the self. So therefore Buddha says, if you give an identity to the Buddha, it is no more a Buddha. Which means all the constant changes that happens to a person, that is the nature's way of dealing with reality. We have to deal with reality in that way. Things that are constantly in flux. Today I may have long hair and tomorrow I may lose it. So that understanding we all need to have, that the self, what we want to keep as forever, as a permanent entity, that idea has to go away from us. So this is the verse is talking about. In the Diamond Sutra, this is one of the important verse. Any notion of self we give to a person or to any other thing, it is going to bring us suffering. So therefore, we need to understand the self is not a permanent structure. It keeps changing. Today I may look like this. 10 years from now on, I may look completely different. We need to understand that the body we think, we want to have this body as a healthy and hale one forever. We want to be young forever. We don't want to fall sick. But the nature of the body is different. The body keeps changing every moment. At this very moment, when I talk to you, the body is changing. We are not noticing it because it is very, very subtle. It's very fine to notice. But if you have the ability to notice it, you can see the small changes that happens to our body. So when you know that the body is going to change, when the conditions are right, it may fall sick. It may go through all those things because that is the reality. The body has to go through these changes. The moment we are born and the time we are going to go to our grave, the body goes through so many changes. So that is something we need to understand. You cannot give a permanent identity to the body itself. The body may look healthy today, tomorrow it may fall very sick, and it can come back to health again. So those are the changes that happens to the body. We should not attach ourselves to the identity as a permanent body which is going to be with us forever. Once you get out of this idea that this is not permanent, you can deal with the body much more efficiently and effectively. You know that this body is going to change, so you do what you can so that you can minimize those changes. You understand that this is going to change, so you are more relaxed. You're not that much stressed out because the body is going through so many changes. I may look not so good, I may look really good. All those things are going to change, and you don't have to worry too much about your body. So that is the teaching we take out of this verse. This is the body. And what about our mind? The mind is much more faster in changing. The mind I had a few weeks before, it's not the same what I have today. The mind comprising of all my thoughts and emotions and feelings. Every moment it keeps changing. Today, when I am in this retreat, attending all these classes and practicing meditation, I feel really good. And when I am off of this retreat and off of my meditation practice, I feel so awful. Sometimes I want to go away from all these things. Things are not happening the way I wanted it to be. So the mind keeps changing. So can I relate to that mind which was there yesterday, which was acting differently, and I come today and interact with the same mind? No, the mind has changed. The mind for each and every one of us keeps changing. So we need to understand that the mind is not the same all the time. But what we are doing is we want to hold on to that identity, the mind. The mind as a way of interacting with the world. We think this is how I talk to people. These are the only things I like. These are the things which I do not like. These are the set of people I want to interact with. These are the set of people I want to avoid. These are the things which I want to do at work. These are the things I want to keep away from work. I like certain things. I do not like certain things. I like this child, not the other child. I like this friend, not the other friend. I like this particular way of meditation, not this kind of meditation. All these things which we have built ourselves is there in our mind, that mind again is not dependable. So that's what we need to understand. It is not dependable because it is always in a flux. It always changes. It is not permanent. This concept of impermanence, we need to understand both from the body perspective and also from the mind. If you think about it, let's say my mind is in a very good mood. You are in a very good mood for whatever reasons. And even if your body is sick, you can still do a few things. Let's say you are not in good mood and the body is still healthy, but you avoid certain things. So the body and mind works in a way they influence each other. Without knowing both the state of the body and the mind, they keep changing. So what a mindful person will do? When your body is sick, whether the body is sick or healthy, the mind knows the state of its body and then it acts accordingly based on the conditions. It doesn't shy away from action. It doesn't say that the body is not well, I'm going to excuse myself from action. The mind is not going to do that. Yeah, I cannot do all the things I can do while I'm healthy, but with the changed conditioning, what else I can do? So the mind will start using the reality as it is. It also works the other way. So we need to understand the concept of body and mind. I'm saying the concept of body and mind. The concept means it is not that real because it is not having a permanent identity. It keeps changing. But you have an idea that this is my body and you have an idea this is my mind. So these concepts are something I create and that is all stored in my memory. So we want things to happen that way, but the reality is different. So this is what Buddha and the other teachers are trying to teach us. Do not hold on to that identity which keeps changing. Come back to reality and then interact with the world. You are out of all these sufferings. In the same way, there is another verse in which Subhuti asks, what is a Buddha? I just told you what a Buddha is. A Buddha is someone, an awakened person, a person who is awakened to this reality. He is no more considered this reality as a real thing. It keeps changing. He has awakened to that. So that person, I call him as Buddha. So is that right? So that is the question. Is that a way to identify a Buddha? If somebody is wearing a specific type of dress, if somebody is wearing a specific kind of symbols on his body, on his way of talking, whatever it is, can you consider him as Buddha? And to the highest knowledge that he has attained nirvana, his mind is in this state, can you call him a Buddha? The answer to that question is, Buddha says no. Again, the concept of identity comes in. As soon as you put a label on this person, this is how a Buddha is going to behave and talk like, you are missing the whole purpose, the whole point. Because the Buddha, the state of Buddha itself is constantly in a flux. You cannot put that into a concept and box it and say that this is a Buddha. Because as soon as you put that in a box, it is dead. When you look at our life, the life is not a dead concept. A concept of life being a fixed thing. If you look at our life, the life keeps changing. Just like in a river, the water keeps flowing. It keeps changing. Whereas our minds want us to keep everything permanent, set in stone as a dead thing. Living means, that's why we use the word living. Life is not a fixed thing. The living in moment to the moment. That's how you are with the flow. When people say we are with the flow, You are in the reality. You know what's exactly happening at this moment. I'm able to perceive it without my interpretation. Therefore, I am in a better position to interact with this world. So, life as it happens, if we are able to get to that life much more closer without the hindrances of our mind and body, you get to the reality and there is no suffering. So, this is what the Diamond Sutra, with different means, it is trying to tell us.